All right, yeah, that worked much better. Now I have beautiful, beautiful host permissions.
Just in case you need to kick me out.
No, more importantly, to make you a co-host. There we go. Excellent. So in case you had anything prepared or so what and so forth, but never always
Yeah,
nice to
no.
have the thing too. So this is great. I'll give everyone a couple minutes to trickle in. How have you been today? Hopefully it's been a good Tuesday for you, back from the beach house and all.
Yeah, back from the beach house and just kind of trying to get back into the swing of things, you know. Actually, as you know, I have my home game tonight, so I had to kind of like get my computer all put back together again to like prepare for that. So mostly it was just a day of putting cables into my computer and hoping they worked.
Well, that happens. That happens, and sure enough, I even for myself, like, I mean, I stream off of a cruddy laptop.
Mm.
So for me, I was like, okay, if I wanted to try and do something big this Halloween, I better borrow someone else's computer. And God knows my Friday is going to be absolutely shot for that matter.
Yeah.
So uh, Lord knows that's what's going to happen. But it'll be all good.
Yep.
All good. Yeah.
Actually, it's good because I'm gonna step away and grab a water really quick, so that'll give you
Perfect. Yeah,
time to
go right
jump in.
ahead. Yeah. Excellent. And for the rest of you guys, I hope you guys are doing well, surviving classes. You're on mute, Tim, but it looks like you are.
Yeah,
All
I was
good.
just saying it's something.
I get you.
Yeah.
I get you. Whoops, I need to drag. I needed to get my attendance list pulled up, and I did not. Oops. I guess Johnson and Johnson is going to be Jake, but I'll let him confirm or deny that. Funny when people try to zoom on, but that's what happens. Alrighty, it's getting about 5 after. That's usually a good time to start, so I'll be happy to kick things off here. Welcome to another week of the League of Poker. Typically, we do 3-week sessions to have our play and have a final table. So this is week 2 of session 3. I have another good poker game after our lesson here, but most importantly, for all you guys, I'm super excited to welcome a very special guest. This is an individual I met at a Twitch Raleigh meetup, just a meetup for people who live stream on the platform Twitch. And what did you know? He plays poker. And I was like, wow, glad to know this guy. So I would like to introduce Derek Tenbusch, otherwise known as Killingbird. And I hope you don't mind, just to show off what an awesome guy he is. He's probably best known. He does have a Hidden Mob poker database page. but he's probably mostly well known for this clip. And I hope you don't mind if I play it.
I don't. A lot of people have seen it.
And just like that, just like that on a cold day in January, your destiny was formed, just like that. So today I expect Derek has something about poker life, poker in Vegas, tournaments he's been in, or just whatever he would like to talk about, and then he'll have a Q&A session. But without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to him.
Yeah, thank you, Justin. I appreciate it. That the crazy thing is that is not even my most embarrassing moment that's happened on Twitch, but I'll let you guys find those on your own. So yeah, thank you so much for having me, man. It's super cool. I think one of the reasons why I am kind of still doing what I'm doing, which I'll get into more in just a second, around poker, is that I just love talking about it. Like, it really is the community aspect of it that kind of drew me to it, and I think has kept me in poker as long as I've been doing it. So yeah, so this kind of stuff is super cool. I enjoy it a lot. So I went back and forth. I talked to Justin a little bit about this. I went back and forth very much on what I thought would be best to do tonight. I kind of evolve back and forth between, well, let's talk some strategy, or let's actually like maybe have everyone bring like some hands to talk about. And I'm certainly willing to do that down the line. But I kind of thought what might actually be more insightful at this point is just to talk a little bit about how I got into poker, sort of that progression to now, and then give people a chance to ask some questions, more so about poker life, poker lifestyle, what it's like doing it semi for a living, and people can just kind of fire questions. So that's kind of the plan. We'll just keep it super lax, which, as Justin will tell you, is kind of how my stream is too. So it's probably the most comfortable thing for me as well, because I take a pretty like entertainment over education approach to my poker stream. So yeah, I'll start from the beginning, I guess. And I'll try to make it pretty quick so we have lots of time for questions. I got into poker originally in a weird way. I had actually moved from Los Angeles to North Carolina, and I was in the music business in LA. So when I came here and eventually exited the music business, I found myself really missing the social part of the industry. Like, I would usually be at shows 3, 4, 5 nights a week and hanging out with people and having a few cocktails and chatting, and that part suddenly just went away, and I was home 6 nights a week or whatever. So I randomly walked into a bar in Apex, actually, and I saw a flyer for poker tournaments. And I had never really played poker seriously. I played a little bit as a kid and my family and stuff, and then we had like a little neighborhood game back in California that we played like once every like 3 or 4 months, but it was all like dealer's choice and stuff. But I saw this flyer and it said free, and you like win a gift card or whatever. So I was like, well, I think maybe I'll just start doing that. And it ran like on Tuesdays and Thursday nights or something. So I just kind of started going, and then I realized that I was not good at it at all. So I picked up some books. I remember my first book was Harrington on Hold'em 1, and I kind of started to get a little bit better. And then I started visiting online poker forums and stuff, and kind of improving my game a little bit more that way. And eventually I played so much in this little free game that somebody eventually tapped me on the shoulder and said, hey, we play for real money sometimes too. That's in a different room in the back. And I was like, oh, okay. That sounds fun to me. So after losing a lot of money in that game, I continued to study and try to get better and better. And eventually through the forum, some of those online forums, we had kind of created our own private online forum, which no longer exists. But I met a guy through that who was a web developer and for lack of a better word, a computer guy, and I was a marketing guy by trade. And we started talking about, wouldn't it be cool if we started a poker company? That would, like, if we could just find a way to like monetize our love for poker, wouldn't that be a blast? So after going through many, many ideas, we came up with the idea of starting. We were both members of poker training sites, but none of them focused exclusively on tournaments, which is what we played. So we decided we would start a poker training site. This was almost 11 years ago. So we started a company called Tournament Poker Edge, which we kind of just thought would be like a fun little project. And if we made our money back, that would be really cool. but we were surprised at how successful it was. And like I said, we're about ready to celebrate our 11th year of running that company. So it's been incredibly fruitful, not only financially, but like I said, in terms of building community and making friends in poker and stuff like that. As part of that, we launched several very cool, or I think are very cool, but certainly successful poker podcasts, which have been a blast to do as well. Still heavily involved in those. And then eventually I discovered Twitch, which at the time, I've been streaming on Twitch for about 6 years. When I first started, really nobody played poker on Twitch. The directory, and I don't know how many people here are familiar with Twitch poker, but it's essentially a way that people can watch you play poker, for lack of a better description. When I first started, there would sometimes be 5 or 6 people in the Twitch directory streaming. That has grown significantly over the last 5 to 6 years. It's much more crowded now, but that part of it has just kind of kept me, again, interested in the game and involved. And it's certainly been essentially my social circle for the last 7 or 8 months here, since we've all been quarantined and locked down. Mm-hmm. I do play. One of the things that a lot of people ask me is, so are you a professional poker player? And I always hesitate to say yes or no, because people debate on what the answer to that question is. I don't rely exclusively or even primarily on actual winnings from poker to survive, but it is a pretty good chunk of my income. So I always basically just default to saying I'm a semi-professional poker player, but the majority of my income comes from poker in some form, whether that's Twitch or Tournament Poker Edge or affiliate stuff or whatever. But I play probably as much as most professional, quote unquote, professional poker players. I usually play about 40 hours a week online, much less live, certainly in the last 9 months, less live. But even when, pre-COVID, I would typically probably spend about 2 months playing live poker. The majority of that all being in Las Vegas during the World Series of Poker in the summer. So I've traveled out there every year for the last, well, other than this past summer, the past decade, I've spent in Vegas for the World Series. And when I go to the World Series, I don't necessarily play all World Series events. A lot of that time is honestly spent playing online because the games are super soft, but also cash games and goes. And yeah, it's like you also have all these people in town, or mostly on the World Series of Poker website, but they're all of a sudden in town and they're playing and the games just get good. So, so I would say, like, if you took by game, 99% of my volume is in online poker and literally 1% is live, but I probably play live more than the average Joe, I guess. Just not as much as the professional live grinders, So I mean, that's a little bit of my background. I'm very involved in lots of other poker related ventures, for lack of a better word, but that's kind of the big stuff. So so that's kind of where I come from and what I do. So happy to have a discussion if you guys have any questions.
I'm probably going to have quite a few questions, but
bring it.
So my first question is how differently do you play when you play live versus online? Because in my experience, I make some pretty extreme adjustments to how I play.
Yeah, great question. So it depends a lot on what you're playing live and what you're playing online. So I play relatively small to mid stakes online. So I'll play as low as a few dollar tournaments and up to 55s and 109s. But you're going to play those probably quite a bit different than you're going to play like a $1,500 World Series event or even a $5K World Series event. The other one of the big differences is that when I'm playing online, I typically play somewhere between 4 and 8 tables. And that used to be a lot higher before Twitch, but it's just too hard to focus when you also have to focus on chat and stuff. So I find live, generally people are considerably tighter, and they don't play back as much. So you're just not going to get as much resistance live as online. That's not going to be true 100% of the time, but it's going to be true more often than it's not true, for lack of a better description. A big difference too is that you're going to be playing a lot longer live. Typically, everything with poker, it's going to be, it depends, but A lot of events are going to be like, if they're not entire day events, they're 2-day events or 3-day events or 4-day events. So if you're going to make a deep run, you might play 4 days in a row. Whereas online, you might play 4 hours or maybe 8 hours. So you have to take a different approach too, from just like a mental standpoint and like a stamina standpoint. So I like to enjoy some beers while I'm playing online poker. I typically never do that when I'm playing live. I'll usually have one during what a lot of people call the beer level, which is the last level of the evening. I might order a beer and have one live. But otherwise I don't, because you just can't maintain your stamina and your focus and your concentration for that long. Obviously, the most obvious difference between the two is that you can see your opponents live. So you're going to change up a little bit based on, you just have way more information available to you, and not just typical like tells and stuff, but you're also going to pick up information, just like when the guy next to you says, oh yeah, this is my first time playing a live poker tournament, I'm so excited. Well, now you're going to change the way you play against that person. Or if you see the guy who's like girlfriend or wife is like sitting on the rail the entire tournament watching, that you're going to change the way you play based on that information. And you just pick up cues all day. Whereas live, I'm playing basically almost exclusively on numbers. I use what's called a heads-up display. It tells me how often they play hands, how often they raise, how often they check raise, how often they bet the river. So I have all this information, all this statistical information available to me, but I couldn't tell you a thing about the person. Do they look nervous? Do they look scared? So those are some of the biggest differences.
Yeah. So in my experience live, like I play probably more cash than tournaments, but I've played a couple live tournaments and a fair bit of online. You have like very little fold equity in these cash games, like pre-flop. Like even if you open like to 5x or even more, sometimes you just get like 6 callers, and then I feel like it's really hard to navigate a lot of these spots when it's so multi-way post-flop. And like, it's like you kind of know that like this guy who's calling every hand has like king 5 off and all this stuff, but it's so much harder to kind of like see and take pots down in those scenarios. So do you just kind of like, when you're in one of those games where you're going, 4 ways to a flop almost every hand, or you just kind of, does it almost become like a card drawing game where you just kind of have to wait until you flop kind of top pair and then just value bet and just not really bluff? Like that's kind of my experience. What I've kind of adjusted to do. It's like, you just can't really bluff because these guys don't fold.
Right.
And you just kind of got to sit there and wait.
Yeah. And I should mention, a lot of the things that I said before are very tournament focused, because that's what I do primarily. But in cash games, it's a very different monster, because like you said, everyone's essentially playing very deep stacked. For the most part, you'll sometimes see somebody buy in for the min or whatever, but you're generally playing pretty deep stacked, which means you don't really have the ability to just, if it folds to me in the small blind and the guy on my left has 10 bigs, I could just jam my hands that I want to get in. But you can't necessarily do that in cash when the guy on your left always has 100 big blinds or whatever. Mm-hmm. So yeah, in those games, the very simplistic way for me to put it is, and I use this a lot when I talk to people about poker, I just say make big hands, make big bets in those kind of games, which just essentially means, like you said, just make a good hand. And that can probably, depends on the opponent, depends on the game, but it can probably be as simply as good as top pair, and bet, just make them, charge them for their draws, make them pay, and don't try to bluff. And you'll get more information as the game goes on. You might find out that, oh, this guy always calls the flop bet, but he folds a very high number of turn bets or whatever. So you might just learn, okay, well, I can't really bluff him off his hand with 1 bet, but if I'm willing to go 2, I can. So you almost have to like extend your bluffs into like longer bluffs.
Yeah. I've basically like, a lot of times I'll decide like, okay, my C bets have to be for like 2 streets now, because like, this one guy just never folds the flop. He has to see the turn.
Right. One alternative to that, which you can kind of play around with, is what's called the delayed C bet, which just essentially means that you're going to check most flops and then bet most turns. And it basically just gives them an extra opportunity to miss whatever because those are the kind of people who will call you with backdoor anything, right? Like if they have like king 5, like you said, and the flop comes like queen, jack, deuce, they'll be like, well, I have a backdoor flush draw and a backdoor straight draw.
And
So I'll just
almost a
wait.
straight.
Yeah, so I want to see one more card to see if a 10 comes out, because then I got an open-ended straight draw. So sometimes you can just like check back. Medium strength hands probably are best to do it with, and then just delay c-bet on the turn, and then they're going to go, well, I didn't get any closer to making a hand, so I guess I'll fold.
Yeah.
So that could be one thing you can do.
I have kind of a funny example of a hand. I was playing 1-2 live in Jacksonville, Florida, and so I had ace king under the gun, and I opened $8, and every single person at the table called, and then the big blind threw in 3 5s to call, but it technically reopened the action. So like the dealer was like, no, that has to stay in. So then I made it 45 because I wanted to get everybody else out of there. And that was like, everyone else did fold except for him. He called, flop became ace queen 8, and he just led into me for $60. And we started with like 200 effective. And so I jammed the remaining like 50 or $150 or whatever it was. And he called and he had ace queen. So kind of unfortunate, but then I ended up rivering a king. So it worked out very well.
Nice.
But it was just like, I feel like people just play like so face up. Like I almost felt like I could have folded to that guy, like on that flop with that low of a SPR.
Yeah. When they're dunk leading those kind of flops with that little money, it's just, you're probably just beat.
Yeah. It just, it's so like mind blowing how face up some people play in some of these like low stakes live games.
Yeah. But that's what you want. So you want people to play face up. Makes your life way easier.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
I had a question for you.
Sure.
So I don't really like online poker. Obviously, I've been forced into it lately. But like, so a lot of my game, I guess, has to do with like talking to people, seeing what I can get out of them, seeing physical body language cues, things like that. So do you have any tips for like what I can try to get out of that online, if there is a good way? Like the one thing I've tried is like trying to like trash talk people almost in like the chat, but like you get very little response, if anything. So it doesn't really get like my desired outcome. So you have any tips for that?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are some little things that you can pick up from online that are transferable to live, but they're going to be almost never visual. You know, it's going to be like a couple of good ones. Timing tells are sort of an interesting one. How quickly people bet, how quickly they call. You can start to pick up some reads based on that. The thing is that it doesn't always mean the same thing. So you have to kind of like apply that just to that particular opponent. So one good task that might be interesting for you to try, and this is something I did once, and I probably really should have stuck with it, but I never did, is I don't know what poker site you play on, but most of them have a note-taking feature where you can take a note on a player. Give yourself the task of, during one session, making notes, and tell yourself that you won't stop until you have a note on every player at the table. And you're going to want to make those notes, for lack of a better description, tell things, right? Like things like, oh, he tanked really long on the river before calling with second pair, or bet really fast on every street when he flopped the nuts. Start making a bunch of notes like that, and it'll force you into paying way more specific attention to every player, and make sure you do it in hands that you're not in as well.
Mm-hmm.
So don't just check out because you folded pre-flop or whatever. Watch every hand for every player every time. That's going to get you into a mindset that is going to be very helpful for you online. It's also going to make you get a little bit of that same sense that you get playing live. Like you'll feel like you're looking for tells and stuff. But it's also going to help you when you go back to play live, because you're going to find yourself sitting at a table watching every player act, even when you folded pre-flop, which will be really helpful in the long run.
Cool, thank you.
You got it.
Very cool.
So I have another question.
Sure.
Kind of how do you deal with like big downswings and like Because for me, if I have like kind of 3 like big losing sessions in a row, I feel like it kind of really affects my mindset going in, and it kind of compounds and amplifies the problem sometimes.
Sure.
And that might just be because I'm more of an amateur, and you know, I'm not as used to like the variance that's present in poker.
Yeah. I think it's definitely true for everybody, amateurs and non-amateurs. The biggest thing you can do, and this is probably something you guys have all read a million times, is just make sure you're practicing really good bankroll management. Do you play primarily cash or tournaments?
I do a good bit of both, but I've been trying to play more cash because my results there are significantly better.
All right. So like a lot of people, so for this takes a little bit of backstory, but so I play, all the poker that I play is played backed, meaning there's people who give me the money to play with, and then I split my winnings with them.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people, when they play backed, just continue to fire at the same level they would normally fire, their same average buy-in, no matter if they're upswinging or downswinging. Right? They just keep playing because it's not their money. They don't care that much. I treat it a little bit differently. I treat my backed bankroll as though it were my own. So when I'm going on a downswing, I lower my average buy-in. And I typically, again, I only play, I primarily play tournaments. I typically play on a $300 or a 300 buy-in rule, meaning I have 300 buy-ins at whatever average tournament I'm playing. So if I'm playing $10 tournaments, then I want to have $3,000 in my bankroll. And I don't necessarily do it because I can't get a reload. I could just call my backers and say, hey, I need another grand. But I don't do that because I like the idea of keeping myself comfortable in the game, not getting frustrated, not getting tilted that I'm on a downswing. In fact, I'm actually currently on, I'd have to look at my bankroll. I'm on probably a 6-month, $2,500 downswing, roughly, which isn't much, really, for a like if I continue to play at my normal buy-in level, that would be more like an 8K downswing. But because I continue to step down when I'm losing, I never really get that like frustration level or tilt level. I just continue to go, okay, just got to keep grinding. Eventually I'll get out of this downswing. I'll be back up and I'll start playing bigger again. So make sure you're playing within your bankroll. This is going to sound stupid. Well, maybe not stupid to all of you. There's, I don't know. I'll have to check if he's still available. I'll put a link in the chat if he is. There's a guy named Elliot Rowe who does he does mental game coaching for poker players, helping you deal with things like downswings and fatigue and game prep, like getting ready for a big session or whatever. He's really expensive, but he has some free meditation sound. What am I looking for? MP3s. That's the word I was looking for. So I used to, and I admit I'm not very good at it anymore. I used to meditate for 15 minutes before every session. And all that meant was, in this case, essentially sitting back in my chair, putting headphones on and listening to this free MP3. It is incredibly helpful for your mental game and for not getting frustrated and not getting tilted. So if he still has those, I would check them out. I'm not going to go through. I'll just put the link in the chat. I have no affiliation with him or anything. I don't get any money if you sign up with him. But if he has the free ones, just download them and check them out. You'll be surprised how helpful they are.
Gotcha. I was wondering if this was one of your regular friends you had played with in your home games, but I guess since you said it could be something else. But poker branded meditation. Now we have everything.
Yeah, he works with mostly poker players, but also UFC fighters. And he works with like Fedor Holtz and like all the biggest poker players in the world, which is why he's gotten so expensive. But he did used to have some like free game prep MP3s you could download. So, and if he doesn't, just Google around. You'll find somebody who has some free samples available. And I can't vouch for any of them, but they're worth checking out for sure.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, I have, someone else had something?
Oh, I was just going to say, so are you planning on being in, like, stopping by some of our other meetings? Like if we had some hands or like a tournament session to review or something like that?
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to do that.
And,
Yeah,
and
because I
for the other officers, I can definitely forward you Derek's info because I was the one to set it up. But since I will not be here after December, then I'll make sure that you guys still have that. And hey, you can be a resource however you want to use it, and you
Yeah.
guys still have the freedom to set that all up. So
Yeah, I could even look at maybe bringing on one of the instructors for our site, because they are professional teachers. Essentially, they're going to do it. They'll do it. I can give you some good advice, but they will do a much better job. So we can kind of like tag team a little bit maybe and talk about different hands and stuff.
yeah.
well, I'm the one to bring the gossipy question up. But what's the craziest stuff you've seen in Vegas?
Oh man, geez.
Probably a long list. Who knows?
Yeah, I'm trying to. Well, I was there when the I don't know if you guys remember this. Like 2 years ago, there was a guy who got kicked out of the World Series of Poker main event for basically dropping his pants.
Yep,
Oh
I
no,
remember
you were
that.
there.
I knew that's what you were
Yeah.
about to mention.
Yeah, he like I think I can't remember the order of what he did, but he at one point threw his shoe at a dealer, and then he did some other crazy stuff. He got kicked out of the tournament, and then I think he went to a blackjack table or a craps table, and he stood up and pulled his pants down. I wasn't very close to him, but I was pretty close to him, like
Oh,
closer
man.
than I wanted to be. So yeah, so I mean, that's like poker wise, that's definitely one of them. Most of the crazy stuff honestly happens after you've busted a tournament, like going out to the bars or the strip clubs or gambling on ridiculous things. Like from a gambling standpoint, probably the biggest one is, and I'm not a boxing guy, but there was a time where, does anybody here watch boxing? Pacquiao was fighting, shoot, now I'm gonna forget his name.
Not Mayweather.
No.
Yeah, I don't know his other bigger matchups.
Yeah, this was several years ago. If I find it, I'll mention his name. But he was fighting Bradley.
Okay.
The guy's name was Bradley, and we had just lost a ton to most of us money in the pits after a poker session. And so we went back to the house and we were going to rent the Bradley Pacquiao fight. And everybody was like, well, let's bet on Pacquiao, how much we bet or whatever. Bradley was, I think, plus 800, meaning he was like a 8-1 underdog or whatever. And I said, I have a feeling that Bradley's going to win this fight. I think we should bet big on Bradley and just hope for the best. So we did. And then the fight happened. And basically, there were like 8 of us. I don't know how much money we had on the line. Oh, some of these guys were much bigger poker players than me. Some guys probably had thousands. I think I had hundreds. So, maybe not a lot for me, but a lot for them. And after the fight was over, everybody's looking at me like they wanted to kill me because Pacquiao had clearly won the fight. So we were all basically just like talking about how much money we had lost or how much we were going to win. And then at some point, the guy announcing the victor said the winner in a split decision, and everybody looked and thought, oh shit, Bradley won. And they announced that Bradley was the winner, and we all looked at each other and said, that is the most rigged boxing match of all time, but we loved it. We jumped up and down hugging. I don't know how much money was won in the house, but it had to be something like 50 grand, maybe 75 grand.
Whoa, look at that.
So we've had some fun like betting stories like that and stuff too. But yeah, most of them happen late at night in seedy bars that nobody goes to.
That's great. That's great. The other one I can think of, favorite casino of all time?
For me, it's probably the Wynn in Vegas.
Okay.
So the Venetian is also a very, very nice casino. And I would say the Venetian, but I stopped playing there about 6 years ago because Sheldon Adelson, who owns the Venetian, is very anti-online poker. He spends a lot of money he gives a lot of money to
Monopoly.
lobbyists.
Yep.
Yeah, he's like, oh, we can't have online poker. It'll shut my casino down. So I just can't. Obviously, I rely a lot on online poker, so I don't want to give him my money. So I go to the Win, especially for tournaments. Well, for cash games too. It's super comfortable. They have like the best chairs in Vegas. Every table has chargers under every seat, so you can charge your phones. Great service, great run tournaments. It's amazing. I swear by the Win. Like the WSOP is at the Rio, but the Rio is really a shitty casino. Like in
All
terms,
right. There's
in
the
terms of
tea. There's
quality
the
of
tea that's
life.
coming out there.
Yeah. So yeah, I would, if you ever go to Vegas and you're looking for one place to play poker, I would go to the Win. Unless you like a nice, like dirty, like kind of smoky, off the strip casino with really good value tournaments, go to the Orleans, because the Orleans runs on Friday nights a really good no limit hold'em tournament that all the locals play in. I don't know why. It's just kind of thought of as that's the local tournament that you play in on Friday night. So everybody goes there, gets a ton of runners, and it's super soft, really good value. So those are the kind of the two that I would, two on very different spectrums, but the two I would recommend.
Gotcha. Fascinating. Well, it'll be very interesting to petition the NC State Student Senate for a League of Poker field trip. We will try our best, but hey, I want to just set out there, you know.
You know, I should say too. Have you guys been to any of you guys been to Cherokee Casino?
I know a couple have.
So I actually have a funny story about Cherokee Casino. So this weekend, my family has a cabin in Tennessee, and it's pretty close to Murphy, North Carolina. So me and my dad were going to go on Saturday to the one in Murphy, but I was driving up on Friday and it was only going to be about 15 minutes out of the way. So I was like, I'll go ahead and stop by. And I just typed in Harrah's Casino, but then I drove all the way to Cherokee rather than to the one in Murphy. And then, so I was like going to maybe hop in a game, and I got on the 1-2 list, but then it was going to be like an hour wait. So I was like, oh, I'll just drive back, come back tomorrow, and like call in ahead. I type it into my phone and I'm 2 hours away. And I'm like, what? This is just me just not paying attention whatsoever as I drove up there. But I was not happy.
Yeah, I imagine. Well, if you guys ever get a chance, I actually don't really enjoy Cherokee that much normally, because it's just, I don't know, it's just not that great of a room. But during they do the World Series of Poker circuit event there. It's the biggest stop on the circuit, and it's awesome. And it's great. It's a great place to go too, because you just like rent a cabin or whatever for like $50 a night, because they don't, unless you're going to stay in the casino hotel, there's not a lot of places to stay. So whenever they start up the World Series again, if they ever do, I would definitely check out Cherokee.
Very cool. Very cool.
Have you ever been down to Jacksonville?
I have not.
Have there?
No, I have not. In fact, the only places I've played in Florida, I played in Tampa and the Hard Rock, but it was back when I
played there.
It was oh, really? Yeah, it was cool, but it was back when I can't remember the exact details, but it was something like you could only buy in for like $50 or something at 1-2, or I think. Yeah, I think they've gotten rid of that now, but back then there was some sort of like max buy-in rule. So it was super frustrating. Yeah. So but I never really get down there, because usually when I travel for poker, it's either to Cherokee, Vegas, Atlantic City, because I go to the circuit events. And then I usually do like one out of country trip a year. So Poker Stars does what used to be called the Poker Stars Caribbean Adventure in the Bahamas. So I've been there a couple times. And then been to Punta Cana and Costa Rica. And I'm probably forgetting something. But I try to just sort of like, I target like a few different live events to go to, and then that's all I do.
What's your preferred casino for Atlantic City?
Borgata. I mean, like just from a pure value standpoint, I think Borgata is going to be the best, because they have the biggest fields, the most tournaments. I really like, they run like I'm sure this has changed, because last time I was up there was for the Super Bowl. And I don't even know when they reopened or whatever after COVID, but they used to run like a really good, I think on Friday nights, a 150 knockout tournament. That was really, really good and really soft. But yeah, that's a great room too, Borgata. I actually so when I go to Atlantic City, it's always for like this, we always go on Super Bowl weekend. It's kind of just more of a guy's trip than a poker trip. And we kind of tend to just end up in like the seedier casinos, just because I guess that's what you do when you go, you go on guys trips. I don't know. But if somebody was going there for like a week and they were like, what I want to go play poker, what tournament or what casino, I would definitely say the Borgata.
Gotcha. I'm turning 21 soon. I'm from Philly, so.
Oh yeah, perfect.
Trying to make that a regular thing.
Yep, 100%. Make sure when you go there, at some point to celebrate your 21st birthday, go to the Irish pub. It's right on the boardwalk. And it's just this like kind of historic little bar with like the best bartender that I've probably ever had. It's not like a fancy club or anything. It's literally just like this little crappy pub, but it's definitely worth stopping in there one night for a few drinks. And say hi to John for me. He's the bartender.
All right, cool.
Nice. Last chance for questions. I definitely want to make sure I give you enough time to get back to your home game.
Cool.
But this has been awesome. Learned so much from the semi-pro himself, which is this has been everything I wanted and more. It's been awesome.
Cool.
Anybody else?
Yeah. So, what are some of the notable poker players you have come across, or some of your experience playing with those notable poker players that we might know?
Yeah, so let me think. So it's funny. I've taken a photo with exactly 2 professional poker players in my life, and that's kind of how I gauge like when people say who's your favorite poker players, I'm always like, well, there's only 2 that I thought to actually take a picture with, so they must be the greatest. Scotty Wynn.
Oh, hey, baby.
Yeah, he's just he's a legend of the game, and by far my favorite. And it was really awkward because I ran into him like sort of a classic cliche way you meet somebody you idolize was at the urinal in the Rio bathroom. But I was like, I can't say anything to him, like right next to him. I gotta wait. So I kind of finished, what I was doing, washed my hands, and I walked outside. I literally just sat there. And we were both at the urinal, so I'm not sure what took him so long, but it was like 10 minutes before he came out of the bathroom. And when he came out, it was Sammy Farha, and I'm like, I'm like, Sammy, you got to let me get a picture. And he's like, oh, of course, friend. Had a cigarette hanging out of his mouth and everything. So, but this was so long ago that it was on I think it was literally on a flip phone. So the camera quality is so bad. I have it on my Facebook somewhere. I should track it down.
That's awesome, though. That is two people, 2 characters you definitely want a picture of. There's no question about that.
Yeah, but the great thing about the World Series of Poker is when you walk through the hallways, you will see every single poker player you know. And you can walk. I mean, there's no secure. It's not like going to the World Series or the World Series of Baseball or the Super Bowl or whatever. They're just standing there in the hallway, just like everybody else. So, I mean, Phil Ivey will walk by, and Negreanu will be sitting in a chair on his phone. They're all just around. It's I mean, I've seen and met all those people. I've played with Moneymaker. I played with Darvin Moon. I don't know if you guys remember him from the World Series a few years back. He actually just passed away.
No, I did not know that.
Yeah, just maybe 2 months ago. But he was one of the nicest guys I've ever played with, which I guess is not too shocking based on his persona on the final table of the World Series. So yeah, lots of people, but and most of them have all been incredibly nice and cool for sure.
Gotcha. That's amazing. Yeah. No, the first year I ever watched the World Series of Poker main event was 2006, and as an 8-year-old, my mom was very concerned for me. But that's when I fell in love with the more game bot Alan Cunningham. But not a Jamie Gold fan, but Alan Cunningham was my personal favorite, and everyone's like, who? But
yeah,
that's my personal one there. So
yeah, Alan's great.
very, very cool.
You got Negreanu or Doug Polk?
It's funny actually. So somebody tweeted out at one point hey, looking for action on the Negreanu versus Polk challenge or whatever. And I have no real interest in betting on Doug Polk because I think he's just kind of a huge favorite. But it was a guy who I know, and we've shared beers together and stuff. So I wrote him back and I said, hey, I'll bet on the match. I'll let you have whoever you want, and the loser pays the loser pays for the bar tab the next time we drink together. So I have Negreanu, but it's not for a lot of cash. Well,
Yeah.
hopefully not. I don't know how much this guy's going to drink, but hopefully not too much. So I'll be rooting for Negreanu. The other thing is, so with the Negreanu, if Poke wins, it's just going to be like, well, of course he was supposed to win. Like that's obvious.
Yeah.
I kind of want to see Negreanu beat Poke just so we can experience like some sort of Poke blow up. And just to kind of see like poker Twitter going like, oh my God, how could you lose to Daniel Negreanu?
Yeah.
So yeah,
well,
but
Hellmuth
I
has beaten Antonio 3 times in a row, and I didn't think there was a chance that would happen. So,
you know, I've always argued that Negreanu, Hellmuth gets a lot of crap from like GTO poker players. Hellmuth is a lot better at poker than I think most people think. Like I think the average average fan thinks he's good, but the people who are serious about poker are like, he does some weird stuff. He's not that great. He has something that I can't really figure out about how to play against particular opponents, particularly recreational opponents, and he does it incredibly well, which is evidenced by the fact that he continues to win bracelets even though people think he sucks.
Even when the game changes.
Yeah,
that's very true.
And he's doing it in mixed games, which aren't his specialty. So
yeah,
I don't know. I he's not one of my favorite poker players, but I can't talk bad about the guy because he just continues to win.
Yeah, my opinion of him has pretty much completely changed after watching. I didn't watch the third match because it was only on Poker Go, but the second match especially was pretty insane.
Yeah,
just with like how much he owned Antonio.
Yeah, he's a character for sure, but man, you can't argue with the results.
Yeah, for sure.
That's good. That's good. I think that's going to do it. So once again, I really want to thank Derek for coming out here. I've actually already posted links to Tournament Poker Edge, your Twitch, I think all your socials. You can definitely reach him out there if you had any more questions or just wanted to connect with him. Are you going live in like 15 minutes?
Yeah, I'm basically going to go hit the restroom, grab another. Well, actually, I'll probably grab a beer now. It's probably about beer time. And then I'm going to go live on Twitch. So you guys are obviously very welcome to come swing by. For any of you who venture into the Twitch streets, come by and say hello. I'm actually going to do a few giveaways for entries into my home game. So you're welcome to participate in that stuff. And it'll be fun.
That's it. But once again, really, really appreciate you for coming here. I think this makes our whole poker experience, even if it's a bit of a small club, I think it really makes it worthwhile. And like I said, I had this for like a year ever since we met in November, and I'm so glad it's paying off. So
cool.
Thank you very much. Now to the participants, I'm ready to start our poker games to see who's going to win in our standings. So once we end here, we'll hop into our Discord channel, and I think I already have the table assignments there, so we can do just that. But that is it for me. Cole, Warren, do you have anything to say?
Thank you very much, Derek. I really appreciate it. I was eating dinner while you were talking, but it was great.
Problem.
It was great. It was great listening to you speak. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. No problem. And if any of you guys ever want, like, you just have questions or whatever, feel free. I'm on Twitter. I do have a Discord, but you can just find that through my Twitch if that interests you. But you guys can always shoot me a message, a direct message on Twitter or wherever else you can find me on. I'm on all the socials. So feel free to drop me if you just have questions about a hand or you want to ask about where I should stay in Vegas or whatever. Anything you want, just hit me up.
There you go. All right, we'll turn you loose so you have some time. But thank you very much. Have a great rest of your day and good stream, good poker, plus EV.
Yeah, cheers, guys.